Hello, grandchildren. Good to be with you again. One of your mothers suggested that if I would do some videos on fun things about my parents and about Grandpa's parents. So I'm very happy to do that. I think, in fact, we're going to do a video about each of them, each of the four of them. But I thought today I would just start out by giving a small introduction to them. All four of them were born in the 1920s, in the 20th century. So all four of them had some similar experiences to start with. That is kind of part of your history. In a way, all four of them were actually born into families that were poor. Grandpa Nauman was the oldest of 6 children, and his father was a missionary. And in those days, churches weren't always able to pay their pastors. And so many times we've been told he was paid in food. They used to have pound parties. So somebody would give a pound of flour, and somebody would give a pound of rice, and somebody else would give their eggs or rabbits or whatever for food, or chickens. Grandma Nauman grew up in Wisconsin, where she was born on a farm. She was the youngest of, I don't know if it was 8 children or 10 children. Both Grandma and Grandpa Nauman, Shirley and Ted, were 10 years old when their mothers died. So they had some things in common when they met, including not having their mothers from a very young age. I don't believe that Grandpa Lemhouse, in other words, Grandma Nauman's father, I don't believe he ever remarried. But Grandpa Nauman's father did remarry, and so he had a sort of a stepmother later on in life, and her name was Judith. My parents, Grandma and Grandpa Freitag, also were born in the 1920s, and my mother actually was born in 1920. Right on the button. And my mother was born on a farm in Minnesota. And she was the oldest of 11 children. And my dad was born in Connecticut. And he was the fourth of, I believe, 9 children. So they all were in large families. Grandpa Ted Nauman's family was the smallest with 6 children, and my mother's family that she came from was the largest with 11 children. 11 that lived beyond birth. These great-grandparents of yours were sturdy people. They had a strong faith. They were all 4 of them were Lutheran. They were both married in Lutheran churches. And they attended church, and they believed firmly in Jesus Christ as their Savior. They also experienced difficult wars. They witnessed in their life the tail end of the effects of World War I. They all lived through World War II, and both the grandpas, one in the Navy and one in the Air Force, had things to do either during the war or right after the war with the military of the United States. And they also lived through the Depression that started with the stock market falling in 1929. They lived through the Korean War. They lived through the Vietnam War. They were tough people. There was longevity on the side of my parents, your great-grandparents. My father's mother, Grandpa Freitag, Arthur Freitag, his mother lived until she was 101 years old. And my mother's mother lived until she was 96 years old. There was also longevity on the Nauman side. Grandma Nauman's father, Robert Lemhouse, lived to be over 100 years old. And of course, her mother died when she was 10. And Grandpa Nauman's mother died when he was 10. She died from pneumonia. Grandpa Nauman's mother died from pneumonia when she was 38 years old. I don't know. Strong to their faith, and they're an example to us even today. That's about it for the moment. In the next 4 videos, I'm going to talk about each of them separately, some fun things that we know about them. Love all of you.